So, in order to read an applicant, what do you think colleges have to, look for in the application in order to really first start understanding who this applicant truly is? Like, what is going to be the document? And that document is called a school profile. If you haven't seen your school profile or don't even know what it is, you should ask your college counselor to send it to you. Oftentimes, you can find it online on your kind of college counseling site on your high school. Um, and that is really important, for you to really kind of navigate, I think, how you're being presented to colleges. So for context, I'm going to go ahead and share, a school profile I helped create. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen, and then I'm going to share one of the school profiles. And so we're going to go here. I need to go share screen again. Let's see. Great. Let's see. Um, so for context, this is a high school profile. And so in and of itself, I think that it's important to see, and understand what the profile is, right? So at the top, you're going to find, the name of the school. I used to work at a school called Poly Prep. All the contact information for all the people who are, readily important at the institution. You'll find the mission and vision of the school, right? They can kind of understand, you're understanding the school context, understanding, the community a little bit, what it's like inside the community, what are maybe some, great activities of note that the institution shares, and a variety of other things. Right, you get the graduation requirements. They'll tell you about the advanced coursework, or any top coursework or the most advanced curriculum at your institution, in of itself, right? What type of research is being done, if any, independent studies. And this is going to give colleges and universities an understanding of how to evaluate your curriculum, because in order to kind of give you an academic rating when they're looking at your grades and the classes you've taken, you need to understand how and why your classes are, in the AP curriculum, for example. Like, why are you able to take this AP? Is there a qualification that allows you to take the AP, or if you're in advanced coursework, or if your class doesn't have APs, or any advanced coursework, and you just have standard level courses, this is where they're going to go to understand that. Why is that important? People often conflate that you're being compared, with a student from some other school. And just know that just because your school doesn't have the same offering as another school does, that doesn't necessarily put you at a disadvantage, right? Because everyone has a different type of curriculum, and it's important to understand and think and realize that. And every school is read in the context of that school. And so, while, for example, people will say it's not like comparing apples to apples, you're all fruit in a basket, right? And each basket has a different type of fruit, right? And or each basket has something that is going to present something new and different. So just take it like that, I think, because it's going to really allow you to stop comparing. Either if you're a parent, stop comparing with your kids with their kids. Stop wondering what all your friends are doing and where everyone's applying. It helps create just a better mindset and go into this process, that you're not being compared, to your classmates or others. Moving on. Testing is so incredibly important as well. And so with testing, right now we're in a test optional landscape, but in and of itself, right, there are going to be schools that want you to submit tests, and some schools that don't want you to submit tests, and some schools that you are wanting to apply to, and they say they're test optional, but they might want your test. I'll be creating a video soon after this series of presentations about how to look at test optional policies, but read the policies at each school. So just because a school is test optional does not mean necessarily that they don't want to see your test if you have it, right? And so I'll teach you how to kind of go through all those things, and we'll definitely be covering that in videos to come. Another piece right here, as we continue to go down, as I talked about earlier, advanced placement, AP curriculum, right? So we talk about restrictions. Why is it important for a school to talk about the restrictions of your curriculum? Because sometimes you can't take all the great classes that you want to take. You can't do all the things that you want to do. Why? Because you have a schedule and you're limited, and that's important. Limits are important, because you can't have a kid taking 7 AP classes at Poly. At the time we had AP courses, but you can't have them taking like 7 AP classes because that's just not sustainable. And so they restrict those courses. That put a kid at disadvantage, at Poly, for example, since we restricted kids compared to another school that lets their kid take 7 APs. Absolutely not. Why? Because each student is going to be evaluated in the context of that curriculum. So it's really, 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 really important to understand that. We also talk about post APs. This is really important as well. We're talking about the average breakdown of APs per the classes, right? So you see that the average AP taken at Poly was 4.18, right? And then it breaks it down, among various groups, right? Students with 9 or more APs, students with 7 to 8, 4 to 5, or 4 to 6, and then students with 3 or fewer. So it gives colleges an idea of like how many kids are taking APs, in terms of the kids who have the most versus kids who have the least. And then we also gave a breakdown of some 5-year transfer exams. Another important thing, we also go through kind of courses. And so it's really important to keep in mind that we talk about the grades, right? So we didn't give a GPA breakdown, we just give grades, right? So understanding where the grades are. So for example, let's say you took a really, really, really hard class, and that hard class at Poly was AP Psych. The AP Psych teacher was very, very difficult, but incredible, right? Right. There are students who would get a C in the class and then still get a 5 in the exam, right? And so this way, in and of itself, like if you did get not a great grade, but you had a hard teacher, at times schools present their grade information like this, so that people are like, oh, like the average grade in this class is a B plus, right? And so this grade, even though it's not an A, is still A quality. So I'm going to understand that context because they look at these things closely. So keep in mind that sharing as much data as possible and information as possible that helps students, that is helpful to students' candidates, is important. And I do think that at times grade breakdowns can show the average, of a class as opposed to sharing like a class ranking, for example. The last piece of the school profile is going to be college matriculation. In itself, where do students from that high school go to college? Why it's important to see a diverse array of institutions, on the school profile, because in itself, I mean, each school is going to know when you send, a student to their school, because typically admissions officers read the same territories every year because they manage territories across the country, across the world. But it's important to realize, where they're going, right? Like, it's like, if I'm an institution and I've heard of a school, but they never sent us a kid, I'm going to be looking at here, because I went to liberal arts college. I'm going to be like, well, do they send their kids to liberal arts colleges? What is my chance of yielding them? What does the yielding mean? It means their probability of actually enrolling in that institution, right? And so we're in, as my coworker used to say, we're in an era of enrollment management. Thanks, Alexis. It's really kind of important to understand that colleges not only want great kids who are going to, really love the institution, but who are going to come to their institution. So keep that in mind as you kind of navigate, some of these processes.